Ciao a tutti and welcome to Italian Stories. This is a series of interviews where, together with friends and students of mine, we dive into the beauty, the comedy, the chaos of learning Italian and living la dolce vita. Today's guest is Robyn. Robyn is a student of mine. She's from England and she moved to Napoli. Today we're going to talk about her journey as a language learner and we're going to talk about living in Italy. Ciao Robyn, come stai?
Ciao Anna, tutto bene, grazie. E tu?
Tutto bene, grazie. Tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from and why do you live in Napoli?
I'm actually English. I moved to Naples 3 years ago. I'm actually moved from the Middle East where I was living for 10 years, so in Dubai. And I moved to Naples for work. I wanted to move a bit closer to England, but not in England. So Italy is the perfect solution.
And so I remember that when we started working together, you told me that you really wanted to learn Italian. Do you feel like in Napoli it's something that you really need to do?
I think so. I think it's important to learn a bit of Italian and have a basic understanding. I think just to understand the culture really, and to be respectful when you're in a restaurant, when you're booking a taxi or so on. It's really helpful. That said, I think in Naples in particular, you can get by with a lot of gestures and hand
Yeah.
gestures. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And so when you started learning Italian, what was it like? Was it something that was difficult for you?
So I've always enjoyed learning languages. I'm not the best at it. I think I have found it quite challenging compared to English. We have got quite a lazy culture with regards to learning languages and expecting other people or other countries to speak English. But with Italian in particular, I think just having a fairly difficult grammar and
Mm.
getting used to the genders of words has
Mm.
been quite challenging, but I'm getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the gender, there's the verb conjugations that are much more difficult
Yeah, yeah,
than English. And it's something that we work on twice a week.
we do. Plus the homework.
Yeah, exactly. And so obviously you've been learning Italian with me, but in general, would you suggest learning Italian on your own? Or do you think that a teacher is needed or maybe a school? What's your opinion?
I think a teacher or a school is definitely needed. I think learning it on your own is really difficult unless you're extremely disciplined. For me, it didn't give me any structured learning on my own. I had less focus and I found it difficult to make it more varied and fun. Whereas I think
Mm.
with our lessons, each lesson is different.
Mhm.
And I've got a set structure which helps my focus.
Yeah. So you've been living in Napoli for 3 years now, right?
3 years, yeah, it's
Oh,
gone
three
so
years
quick.
now.
Yeah,
Okay.
3 years, it's gone really quick.
Yeah. And so are there any funny miscommunications with Italians? Can you think of any situations where you were trying to say something
Yeah.
and they just didn't understand?
Yeah, it happens quite a bit actually. I think at the start, you naturally get embarrassed and it can knock your confidence a little bit. But that would happen anywhere and I'm getting used to it. But it typically has happened to me in smaller towns, and always strangely enough in a coffee shop. Um, and I will be saying something that I think is fairly easy to say. So say, for example, cafe macchiato.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think maybe in the smaller towns, my accent is not typical to them. And yeah, I just have got a strange look as if I'm ordering something really peculiar. But typically, if I say it, 2 or 3 times, it will sink in. But the first time it happened to me, you completely shut down and oh. But
Yeah.
I think this is normal everywhere.
Mm.
I have also had some funny instances where you have to be quite careful on double letters in words, which can completely change the meaning of a word. So recently it was New Year, and
Okay.
buon anno, buon anno. There's a
Yeah.
difference.
Can you explain the difference? Do you feel comfortable saying that? Or I can say it for you if you want.
I'll let you.
I'll just put the difference here, then you're gonna read it here for the people that are curious. That's a very important thing to basically do well in Italian, the
Yeah.
pronunciation of double consonants, because there's a lot of words in Italian that are very similar. And for English speakers, sometimes I don't think you can even hear the difference. You really have to concentrate to understand the difference.
Yeah, I struggle with that, I must admit. You have to be very careful.
My next question is, how do Italians treat expats who really try to learn the language? Do you feel like they're happy when you try, or what's the general reaction?
I've had a really positive reaction in Naples.
Mm-hmm.
The only difficulty I have is sometimes when I'm trying to learn Italian, I get English spoken back to me because they're trying to learn English. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, uh, it's a battle of who can get in there first with their own language and what they're trying to learn. But very positive. Um, Everyone is quite impressed if you can speak a bit, and also quite grateful if you try.
I think that Italians in general are very happy when you try to speak Italian. Also because they don't really expect you to speak their language, because it's not like English.
Yeah.
Italy is a small country, so I personally, if someone is trying to speak Italian to me, I'm like, oh wow, that's impressive. It's not only in Napoli, I think it's everywhere in Italy. So what was the biggest cultural shock for you when you went to Italy?
Well, that's a good question. I think the main one for me was the slower pace of life. This was a huge shock for me, and trying to get on board with the piano mentality.
Yeah.
It's been great, actually. I would say I am living that lifestyle, but it took a
Mm,
while to adapt. Coming
mm,
from, a rat race, a corporate environment, to now my commute is 10 minutes.
mm.
My meetings at work revolve around food and coffee
That's
and
pretty good.
getting to know each other. I'm a big fan of that.
Mm,
So we will always start a meeting with a coffee or a croissant, or meet in
mm,
a coffee shop first before,
mm,
a meeting somewhere else, which is hard to get used to, and you have to build that time into your schedule.
mm,
Um, and then, yeah, when you go out with your friends at the weekend or in the week, I feel like compared to England, you have to schedule that in with your friends a good month sometimes in
mm,
advance. But
mm,
here in Italy, everyone, are you free later? Should we catch up? It's very social.
mm.
And if we do go out for a drink or dinner, it's very relaxed. There's
Yes.
not a rush to get your bill. When you're
Mm.
finished, I have to beg for the bill. No one will kick you out.
It's something that, for example, I live abroad, and then when I go back to Italy, I need to get used to that
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
But it's very nice, because it makes you really value just like the slowness of things, which I don't think is a bad thing. Sometimes people are always rushing things,
yeah.
and well, in Italy, that's not really
It's
a thing.
just not the case. It really isn't, and
Mm.
it's just been life changing for me. It does
Yeah.
take some getting used to. I would say it took me a good year to adjust to
Mm.
that.
Mm, 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 mm.
And even having set times for restaurants to open. I have family and friends who come to visit me, and they might be hungry at 4 o'clock
Mhm,
because they had a late breakfast, and I have to
mhm.
explain to them, okay, we'll have to eat at home because nowhere will be open at that time for
Yeah.
lunch. A late lunch, you won't find anywhere. We'll have to wait for aperitivo time at 6, and to have those set times that restaurants and bars open can be difficult for guests to
Yeah.
understand. Typically I would in the UK eat no later than 7:30 on a weeknight.
Mm, mm, mm.
Here you wouldn't really go out before 8:30 for a
Yeah.
dinner, and it's normal to go out even at 10 o'clock for your food,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
which
Yeah. Do you like that?
I do. I've fully embraced it now. Fully embraced it, and I have to be reminded by my parents. Okay, we're not young spring chickens anymore. We need to eat at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I'm dragging them out at 9 o'clock at night.
So, Robyn, how different is the social or dating life in Napoli compared to back home?
For me, I love the social life here. I actually really like the dating life here as well. Everyone is so welcoming, from even, just the greeting, for instance,
Mhm.
everyone kissing each other on the cheek, hugs. It takes 10 minutes to say bye. It's ciao, 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 ciao. But yeah, I think dating life in particular, there are quite a few differences, in my opinion, from dating an Italian guy, for instance, compared to an English guy. I feel like there's a lot more non-verbal communication, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more tactile.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
just that old school mentality of
Mm-hmm.
opening the doors, which I don't find so much with the guys that I date in England, which is,
Mm.
yeah, my generalization.
Yeah, no,
But
of course,
I
yeah.
think one thing that I'm trying to get used to is when you're dating an Italian guy, you are also dating the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And that doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean in a serious relationship. That can
Mm.
be just dating a guy, and within a week you'll be introduced to their family. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's something serious.
Serious,
It's
yeah.
just normal.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, yeah, so yeah, I can see a lot of differences. It's pretty clear. My next question is, you live in Napoli, so Napoli, sometimes, you see on the news, there's some negative things that generally are said about Napoli not being safe, even if it's something that is actually a little bit everywhere in Italy. So, do you feel safe as a woman in Napoli?
I feel completely safe, and it's
Yeah.
something that I am starting to be a little bit protective of now. Now I've been living in Naples for 3 years, and you have those conversations with people who have never visited Naples, or have just, got off the aeroplane and gone straight to Amalfi Coast and not appreciated Naples
Hmm.
enough. And there's always someone around.
Yeah.
It's that culture where families and little children are always out late,
Yeah.
out socializing, so you're never alone on the street,
Yeah.
and that's quite reassuring. But
Mm.
I haven't had a bad experience in 3 years.
Hmm.
There is petty crime, but that's the
Mm.
same anywhere you go in any city, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. And I haven't had a bad experience at all. And especially for me, coming from Dubai, coming
Mm.
to Naples, and people telling me, "Oh, you need to be really careful. It's dangerous, or there's pickpocketers." And but like we just said, that happens everywhere. But what I
Hmm.
have noticed is, since living in Naples and going back to England, I
Hmm.
feel a little bit more scared walking the streets late at night in England than I
Hmm.
do in Naples. I really
Why?
do.
Is it because
Um,
you're on your own? The streets are a bit more like empty.
Exactly
Mm.
that. And
Hmm.
for instance, I live in a parko on the outskirts, sorry, of Naples. I
Hmm.
can pull up late at night in my car, and there'll be a group of young lads, 14, 15, 16, with their sports clothes on, hoodies, with music on really loud, playing football. And in England, that same kind of group would scare me a little bit.
Okay.
Whereas here, I've had such a positive experience. I get out my car, and 16-year-olds are turning around and saying, "Good evening, how are you?"
Mhm.
I have had instances where I've got stuck or blocked a road, gone up a road the wrong way, and caused lots of traffic in a city centre or
Mhm.
outskirts city centre like Vomero.
Mhm.
And I have physically had someone from their balcony on the third floor come down, open their garage, allow me to reverse into their garage, offer
No.
me a coffee while all the traffic then went the right way, and then sent me on my way
Wow.
in the correct direction of traffic. I mean, I don't think you get that very often anywhere else, that community spirit, wanting to help people. You ask for directions and you ask one person, and before you know it, you've got 3 or 4 people coming out of their shops, their houses to help you.
Mm,
It's really nice. It's unique.
yeah. Yeah. So you've been living in Napoli for 3 years now. Do you see yourself staying in Italy forever?
Yeah, so it's a big consideration at the moment. Definitely something I would not say no to.
Mhm.
I think it will be very difficult leaving Italy and the way of life here, the slower pace, to go back to any sort of rat race
Mm,
or go back to England. So
yeah.
yeah, it's definitely something I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
I've just extended now, so I've been here for 3 years. I'm definitely going to stay for another couple of years and then make a decision after them. But I think yeah, Napoli has my heart.
Yeah. That's nice. And I also think now the older we get, I'm not saying you're old, I'm just in general, the older we get, the more we want a type of like calm life. And
Yeah,
so going from the lifestyle in Napoli to a very chaotic city, or like, because Napoli can be chaotic, but it's slow. So
yes.
going
Yeah.
from slow to fast is pretty difficult.
Very difficult. I think, this whole thing of working to live, not living to work, this
Hmm.
like, a complete and utter change for me. So I
Hmm.
think, like you say, going the other way, it will be a struggle. I
Yeah.
think I will find it difficult to adjust.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Robyn, thank you so much for this interview, and ci vediamo.
Ci vediamo. Thank you, Anna. I've really enjoyed it.